this going to be too small for you to read it?
No, that is.
Keys the page down, keys, and I'll jump you whole page or else the arrows.
Yeah, it started it. I got it to work, you know, log in.
Hey, keyboard don't work?
Well, my pointer is gone.
Pointer. I've never had a pointer on mine.
Well, the little arrow.
Yeah, I've never had one on mine. I just use my finger all the time.
Well, I don't use my finger all the time.
Oh, what do you need a pointer for? You got a mouse over there you're running or what?
You go down to the lower right corner.
No, we got that part figured out, but just wondering why it's not there anymore, because I usually use it, but that's all right. It's gone. Maybe if I turn it off and start it up next time, but you know this will work. Just that part.
6:30, we'll call the special work session meeting of July 5th, 2016 order. We do have a quorum. Public forum, individuals may address the city council about items not included on the agenda, and speakers are required to state their name and address for council records and limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. Speakers are requested to frame their comments around items that fall within the authority of the city council. Generally, the city council will not take official action on an item discussed at this time. We may place the item on file, put the matter under advisement, refer the matter to staff or committee for future report, or direct the matter to be placed on the agenda. Anyone wish to speak?
Robin Hensel, 807 First Street Southeast. Simple enough for little kids to understand, the following are some comments made by the winners of a contest. There are lots of things citizens can do to make their city governments even better. For example, they can vote in city elections, vote for city councils, speak at city council meetings about something they care about. If you were a mayor for your city for a day, what would you do to encourage people to get more involved in city government? That was the question posed to Minnesota 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students who participated in the League of Minnesota Cities 2015 Mayor for a Day essay that fall. One of the participants, one of the winners wrote, "It's different cultures that make Worthington special. Every person in America and people that come from other countries have different beliefs. People need to have courage to be involved in events and city council. We should respect other cultures because difference is better. Different things, bring different items." It's hard to read these children's writing. I would use a blog for different types of how to, says the mayor, and that it's important to vote. Another suggests town hall meetings to discuss the Constitution, crime, schools, through as an open public forum. A mayoral blog was also suggested by another. I mention these because I didn't know if our mayor happened to pick that up. From Tuesday Talk, from the Minnesota AFL-CIO, why are small towns dying? It is said because there's a core of values, these are comments people made, core of values that holds people together and which seems to be missing in urban areas. Agree on challenging work, disagree entirely on the core values piece. This meme needs to be stopped being repeated. It's a small town and frequently GOP adopted form of upmanship based on absolutely nothing. Growing up in a town of 2,500 and moving to the Twin Cities for college and not going back, I would take the values I have encountered here in a large city, including openness, inclusivity, and candor, over some of the present biases in small towns any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Small towns are dying because no one wants to live there. The list is endless, but jobs, infrastructure, isolation, healthcare, and other services available in the cities are not there. There's also not enough diversity of entertainment, intellectual stimulation, shopping, and other tangibles in small towns. And then our county was listed as 52 last year to 77 this year
Time's up,
in
brother.
physical
Thank you.
environment, covering environmental quality and nature and
Time's up.
man-made areas.
Thank you.
How come you aren't rude to others that go over just a little?
Anyone else wish to speak? Third and final call, anyone else wish to speak? Hearing none, we'll move on to regular council information items. 2015 audit, John?
Hello, and thank you. Thank you for having me here. In case you don't remember me, I'm John Hanfler with Hanfler Winery Company. I thought we could just take a few minutes to kind of go through the city's audit, the financial statements, and talk a little bit about how the audit went. Before I dig in, I just want to make a quick comment. We issued this report about mid-June, and since we issued the report, between then and today, I've had a chance to speak with two members here that have said that they've read through all of or most of the audit report beforehand, which is great. It's actually really impressive because unfortunately it's not something we see a whole lot. So I commend you for that, definitely. Each of you should have a copy of the financial statements. That's going to be the thick report, the long report. We're going to start with that first.
In your packets, if you're looking for it to access it, it's the 17th page of the digital document, or it's listed as page 13. For printed.
Okay, everyone there? Okay, this is going to probably mess with you because I'm going to talk about page numbers all the time. If you're in one big PDF, you might have trouble matching up. But I'm going to go to the audit report on page 3 of our financial statements. So I'm going to jump ahead. I think all of you, or most of you, are fairly familiar with audit reports. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the auditor's report letter in the financials itself. But what I want to point out at the top of page 3, we've got our section that says opinions. So what we're giving in this report is an unmodified opinion, or a clean opinion. This is the same as what you typically do get, or what you've always got for a number of years. What we're saying is that we think your financial statements are correct. There's a new section in this auditor's report that I want to point out. It's a section below that says emphasis of matter. What this is saying is that this year, in your audit report, you've adopted a new accounting standard called GASB Statement 68. We'll look at that in a little bit here to see what effect that's had on your financials. Okay? What I want to do next is move on and look at some budget to actual comparisons. We're going to jump way ahead now, page 84.
It's 109.
So what I'm going to do is just run through the funds that have budget to actual comparisons. There's a number of other funds that are smaller that you don't do budgets for. I'm not going to go through those, but you can look at them. I have jotted down later here in my notes on what page it's on. I'll let you know when I get to it. So page 84, and actually 85 as well, is a budget to actual for the revenues for the general fund. So we're going to start with the general fund, the biggest fund. It's not on page 84, it's actually on 85. Total revenues are $5.1 million. You budgeted $4,924,000, so you're $178,000 higher than budget on the general fund for revenues. And if we look at kind of the lines that stand out a little bit, Property taxes, so the first section on page 84, are up a little bit from what you budgeted, about 41,000. Permits are up as well, about $64,000 over budget. And that's kind of along, just down the line there, building permits and other permits as well. And then also intergovernmental revenues. That's going to be like state money from other governments. That's $42,000 higher than budget. I actually chatted with John and Lori this morning about some of this a little bit. Some of this is new, so like fire retention stipend is new this year. Some of it's a little bit increased because of your new annex this year. There's a few things going on there. Overall revenue, like I said, $178,000 higher than budget. So I'm going to move to page 85 here. We'll look at expenditures. And this isn't on the same page either, but total expenditures were about $4.73 million. You budgeted 4.92, so you're 194,000 below budget on expenditures. And if we flip through these pages here, page 86 I'm looking at here, your city and admin expenses below budget by 24,000. Most of that's payroll. You have planned for a city administrator for longer than you had one. Page 87, police is down a little bit from budget. Really no line that specifically stands out for it though. On page 88, building inspection is below budget, or actually, I'm sorry, above budget. You had some pass-through money, so you received some grants, you passed it through to the recipient.
And it's the permit fee related,
Yeah.
so the permit revenue is up, the building inspection costs is up because of the associated.
In page 89, street department. This is an area where most of your variance for budget is. Partly due to some construction projects you got going on this year, what you do is you allocate those costs, those wages related to the time spent on those projects to the project itself. So the general fund shows less expense than you planned on because of that. Overall, we go to page 90. Your fund balance increased $372,000. Your ending fund balance is about $1.9 million. One thing to keep in mind when I say your fund balance is $1.9 million, that doesn't mean you have $1.9 million in cash in the bank. There's a difference. So fund balance, what that means is it's going to be your assets, whatever you have, minus what you owe, your expenditures, your accounts payable. So it's a little different than cash. Okay? A lot different. Yeah, definitely. I mentioned before that I was going to tell you what page, if you wanted to look up on your own, what page the remaining unbudgeted funds were on. If you look at pages 69 to 77, I'm not going to go through them today, but that's where you can see them. Okay, page 91. This is your HRA fund. So HRA, you have revenues of $100,000, expenditures of $24,000. Overall, your fund balance increased by $75,000. Ending fund balance is $416,000. The expenditures were below budget by quite a bit, mostly because you had some improvements you planned on that you didn't do. Okay. Next page is your Heritage Preservation Fund. Heritage Preservation had revenues of $28,480, expenditures of $54,524. Fund balance decreased $26,000. Ending fund balance in this fund is $42,000. A couple of areas that are maybe different than budget, miscellaneous and loans and grants. This is all grant related, so the HPC conference is one area that caused that.
The State Historic Preservation Conference that we hosted last year. Expenses came from this one.
Okay. Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec revenues came in at $437,000. You budgeted $401,000, so you're $35,000 higher than budget. Most of that's because you transferred in extra cash from the general fund to cover a cash deficit. On the expenditure side, a couple areas that maybe stand out is your parks and playgrounds section, below budget by $9,700. You budgeted for a transfer out for the park improvement fund. didn't happen because you were sitting at a deficit cash position at the time. So that transfer didn't happen. Otherwise, most of the rest of the expenditures are pretty much in line with what you planned on. Total expenditures are $415,000. So your fund balance increased $21,000 this year. A good chunk of that's that transfer into the general fund. Ending fund balance is $292,000. Okay, page 95 is your airport